Welcome home, y'all. I'm back into the kitchen. Today I just was trying to figure out what we're doing for supper. You know, you have those days where you're not quite prepared. Well, today was one of those days. And I decided I got these butternut squash from our garden. And I'm gonna use some of those butternut squash with some of our deer sausage, ground deer sausage, and make some butternut squash and sausage fall kind of warm soup. But to go with that, of course, you gotta have some sort of rolls or bread, you know, because you just gotta have that inside of soup. Homemade fresh bread. So I'm gonna make some homemade, it's a sourdough version of a French bread. Because I'm short on time, because I didn't prepare well enough, I'm gonna add a little bit of yeast in with my sourdough to give it a little boost. I'll show y'all how I'm gonna do that. So to start that recipe for the homemade French bread, super easy, guys. I've got 3/4 of a cup of goat's milk with a tablespoon of honey and a tablespoon of butter. Now I've brought this up to about 110 degrees. So I'm gonna put this in my mixing bowl here first and start with that. Get the honey out. And then I'm gonna add to that 2 teaspoons of some active dry yeast. Okay. Now this is going to sit for about 10 minutes until the yeast blooms, until it gets kind of soft and foamy, and that's what they call it, is you bloom the yeast. So I'm going to let that happen, and I'll be right back with you, and I'll show you what we're going to do after that. Okay, it's been about that 7 minutes or so, I guess, between 5 and 10, somewhere anyways. And I've got a nice, I don't know if you guys will be able to see, a nice bloom going on the yeast here. So I'll show you what we're gonna do next. I'm gonna take my sourdough starter. This is my discard. Last time this starter was fed was the other day before I put it in the fridge. I took the starter out this morning when I decided I was gonna make some bread, most likely today, and let it warm up to room temperature. So when I'm done with this, I'm gonna have to feed it again, which is all good. So I'm just gonna put in about 2/3 of a cup, give or take, of sourdough starter. And I'll feed that again here in a minute. I'm gonna stir that in with the milk, the butter, the honey, and the yeast. Okay. I'm going to put in about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of flour. These are 1/2 cup increments, so I'm going to do 3 of those to start, I think. And 1 teaspoon of sea salt. Okay. It's going to get loud up in here for a minute because I'm going to put on my dough attachment on my mixer, and we're going to start to blend this in. Or mix it in. I had started with 1.5 cups. The total recipe you're going to use, depending on your flour and what you use, you're going to probably use in this recipe 2.25 cup to 2 2/3 cup. That's about where you would probably be, again, depending on your flour and the gluten content and all that good stuff. So I'm going to add another 1/2 cup because it was just not coming together quite right. And we're going to continue to mix that up. Still sticking to my finger a little bit, and that's what I'm looking for. When it's not coming off with stuff on my finger, it'll be about done. I think it needs about another 1/4 cup. So this will be a total of 2.25 cups in there, which is right about where I thought we would be on this. Okay, the ratio, I like exactly what I'm seeing here, so I'm gonna let this knead for just a few more minutes. Of course, you can do it without a mixer. You can do it, this recipe, to mix the dough in a bread machine on the dough setting. You could also just do it by hand and get everything combined together. When it comes together and gets to the point where I'm at now, you would put it out on your countertop or cutting board and knead it for about 10 minutes. So I'm just going to knead this for a few minutes with the machine. Okay, at this point, I'm going to transfer it from my mixing bowl into a glass bowl, and we're going to let it rise for a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of avocado oil and kind of spread it around the bowl just to keep it from sticking. Bread, you guys, is so easy to make, and it really doesn't take that long. Total will have spent maybe 15 minutes maybe at getting this dough to come together, and then the rest of the process is super quick and easy, and you can have fresh bread. So if you work on your days off from work, do up a couple loaves, eat one fresh, throw one in the freezer for later in the week, and you're all set. So this is what we're looking like now, just like this. And I'm just going to put a wet towel right over the top of this, and we're gonna let it rise, leave it alone for about 2 hours. And I'll come back with you and we'll show you the rest of it. Okay guys, it's been a couple hours. Our dough has risen nicely. So I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna form it into a log about like that. And I'm gonna roll it into a rectangle shape. I'm gonna get it ready for the final rise. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just some sort of a rectangle shape here is all we're looking for. This is super easy. Flip it over. Keep rolling. Now I'm just going to take and roll it up. And pinch the sides under. So it looks like that. Then we're going to transfer it over here to I've got a cookie sheet that has some parchment paper on it, and I'm just going to let it do its last rise. Then all we have to do is cut some slices in it and bake it. So we'll be back, and it'll just probably take 1 to 2 hours to get that final rise done. It won't take too long, and I'll show you the rest when we get done with the rising. So to go with our sourdough French bread that we're making, I am going to make up a butternut squash soup. This year, this is about what our butternut squashes look like this year. They're ripe, they're good to eat, they just didn't get very big. Again, learning to garden in a new area, I guess. So I'm going to get these cleaned up, prepared, roasted for our butternut sausage soup that we're going to make. Normally you'd only need 1 butternut squash. I'm going to use 2 just because ours are a little smaller. So cut off the ends real quick. Okay, I'm going to cut them in half and scoop out the seeds. And all of the seeds and the ends here, I'll compost those for the garden. soups are one of my favorite things to make, especially during the busy seasons or the busy days and the cold days. They're just easy, they come together, they're satisfying, especially with a loaf of homemade bread of some sort. Just so comforting and so yummy. I just enjoy it. I don't know about y'all, but I really do like to have a good pot of soup every so often. I'm gonna set this aside on my cookie sheet. I have a cookie sheet prepared with just a sheet of parchment paper. I have my oven turned on to 375. That's the temperature our French bread here is going to bake at when it's done rising. So I'm just going to roast these at that temperature. Okay. Show you how it look like here. So here's our pan. I've got my butternut squash. I'm going to take and just drizzle a little bit of avocado. You can use olive oil, avocado oil, butter, whatever your preference is. I'm going to drizzle some of this on and rub it in, and we're going to sprinkle some salt. I'm going to do some garlic powder too on ours just because I like garlic. Wash my hands. We'll just do this here. Okay. A little bit of salt and a little bit of garlic. Okay. I'm going to turn them over face down and pop them in the oven. These are going to take about 45 minutes at 375. While that is cooking, I'm going to chop up an onion and get some garlic diced as well. We're going to need that for this recipe. This onion's just a sweet onion, but you can use any kind you like. I probably would stick with the yellow or sweet variety more so than a white or a red. If you don't like or don't have butternut squash, you can always substitute pumpkin, sweet potatoes. Those are great substitute, or acorn squash, or a combination of any of those things works just fine for this soup. It's really just more almost like Panera Bread has a fall squash soup. And we're kind of gonna, it's kind of our play on that, but we're gonna add some meat into it. So there's our onion. And I'm going to grab out some garlic cloves and we'll get those ready. My last little bit of this piece of garlic, or this head of garlic, I guess it is. And that can be the easiest way to get the peels off the garlic here. Give them a little smush and they come off easier. Y'all don't know that trick. Just gonna kind of rough chop it. It's gonna all get blended together in the soup. I'm gonna use an immersion blender when the time comes. So I'm gonna leave the garlic there on this side because we're gonna put it in a little separate from the onion. Okay, I'm ready now to go ahead. I'm gonna score our bread and go ahead and bake it, and we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So I just have a sharp knife. I'm just gonna make some slices just like you find in the grocery store with your bread. Just use you can use a razor blade for this. This is just a sharper knife we have. These a little bit deeper down here. Okay. I'm gonna pop this bread in the oven for about 15 minutes, 375, and we'll see what she looks like. I think it looks just perfect. I have about a tablespoon of butter, cold butter, and I'm just gonna coat the top of it. Be all ready to be a beautiful accompaniment to our soup. Fresh baked bread. Easy as that, guys. Our butternut squash has about a couple of minutes left in the oven, and then we will pull it out. I'm gonna go ahead and get going on browning our sausage and our with our onions, and then I'll add in the garlic. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that opened up and ready to go. I have 3 tablespoons of butter in our pan. I'll start to get that warming and heating. Then we will add the sausage to that. I'm going to break up the sausage for a little bit. I added a little more butter to this. This is our homemade venison sausage. It does have some pork shoulder in it, but overall it's still a very lean meat, so we'll go ahead and the butter will help with that. And that is the timer for our butternut squash, so I'm going to check that. What I'm going to do is go ahead and poke see how easily it goes through. Yep. Oh yeah. So we're going to let these cool off while we finish up with the sausage and the onions. I'm going to switch over, see if I can find it. We have drawers full of things. It's like find the implement that you want. It's like finding Waldo or something like that. Where's Waldo? like. Where's Waldo and my utensil drawers?
Is it sharp?
Is it on the top shelf of any of them? There it is.
Huh?
There it is, right there. Oh.
Ta-da! What else I found?
Gail, this is what I'm looking for. If you don't have one of these, pick one up. They have them on Amazon. They're fairly cheap. Or Dollar Tree has one, Dollar General. They're real affordable, and it'll help get your meat nice and small. Oh, this smells so good. I wish you guys could smell this sausage. I've got this to about the consistency I like it. I'm going to add in the onions with it. Once all that cooks a little bit, I will add in the garlic as well. I'm just going to let these onions soften a bit in the pot with the sausage. And that probably is going to take about 10 minutes for these onions to become kind of translucent, soften up. Let those cook. So while this onion is cooking with the sausage and getting nice and soft, I'm going to go ahead and put together our herb, spice, and salt mixture that we're going to add into this. I need salt, pepper, ground sage, and marjoram. I'm going to start with a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to do about a quarter teaspoon of pepper. Tablespoon of sage, and a teaspoon of marjoram. We'll add that in towards the end of the process and let it simmer together after we get the butternut squash simmering and all that together. Put that aside for later. Okay, I've got my sausage and my onion, and the onion's about where I'd like it with translucency. And again, that's preference as to how far you take it. I'm going to add my garlic in at this point. Cook the garlic for 1 to 2 minutes. Just get the aromatics out. Let it simmer a little bit without burning it. Garlic can go from 0 to 60 seconds, so to speak, pretty quick. So I'm going to be taking the sausage and onion mixture out and putting it into a bowl that we'll eventually add back in after we get our butternut squash with our bone broth in and get it simmering and immersion blended down. We'll mix everything all back together. So this is about what our sausage and onion mixture looks like, and we'll be adding that back in. I'm going to go ahead and turn over our butternut squash, and we're going to get it out of the squash and into the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. Cool enough we can move that over, that's good. Okay. It should just simply scoop out like that. So soft and yummy. These last two here. I honestly have to say the immersion blender is something we use quite often. It's not super expensive. If you're going to make your own homemade sauces or soups, you'll use it quite a bit. We're hot. Just a second, guys. I want to show you what it looks like in here before I add in my chicken stock. So we have about that much of the, which would be about the size of probably one, and we did two. You're gonna need about 4 cups or 1 quart of chicken, bone broth, stock, whatever you have. This is some of our poultry blend. I had one, I took about a cup out of it. So I'm gonna see how this looks. I might add a little water if I need to. I'm gonna get this warming up and cooking down a little bit. Go over medium high heat on it. Butternut squash naturally has quite a bit of starch in it. So we'll be adding a little heavy cream and a little goat's milk into it a little bit later, but the squash itself is going to thicken the soup. Well, I'm going to let this simmer for about 10 minutes or so. Get nice and warm, 10-15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and add our spices into it. I don't think I'm going to personally need any more liquid, other than when we add at the end our cream and our milk and cream mixture. And we're just going to go ahead and let this simmer away for a few minutes, and I'll be back with you, and we'll add in the last little bit we need to add in. It's been about 20 minutes, give or take, and Kevin's going to use the immersion blender and get everything nice and smooth in our soup. Nice and smooth.
Feel good?
Yep. I'm gonna add one more thing into it, and then we're gonna add our sausage back in. I have a half a cup, a half and half, and a half a cup of goat's milk. You can use regular milk. You can use almond milk, coconut milk, whatever milk you have. But the heavy cream, the half a cup of heavy cream is gonna help thicken it as well. Now I'm going to add back in our sausage and onion and garlic mixture. Wish you guys could smell this. It smells fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and let this simmer for about 5 minutes, and we will be all set to eat. Okay guys, this is the final product and what it looks like. I'm going to give it a taste, and we'll see how it tastes. It's really good. This is a great fall or winter soup. It's like comfort food. I'm gonna try a bite of the bread. The bread's always good. It's delicious, guys. I hope you enjoy these recipes, and I hope that you take the time to try this out and see. Let me know what you think. Thank you.